The first question we have came in from YouTube, and it was from Sandra Bagwell. And Sandra asks a really interesting question. How do you feel about stinging nettles capsules? How do you feel about stinging nettles capsules? Well, my first feeling was, what? I've never heard of that. I don't know what stinging nettles are, and just the sound of it sounded terrible to me. Stinging nettle? Is that something I would want to eat or put in a capsule? But I've learned so much from you, the viewers, that I thought, let's check this out. So I went online and I started, hit Google and started to learn about it, then hit the National Library of Medicine to actually look for it. And I found out some fascinating stuff about this very weirdly and I would say poorly titled thing, the stinging nettle. The first thing I found out is this thing's been tried in Europe in various concoctions for hundreds of years for the treatment of arthritis. The Europeans and these, I mean, even back to medieval times, they make a really big distinction between the leaves of this plant and the trunk and the branches of this plant. So there's some medicinal properties to the leaves. What happened after that was scientists took those leaves, like, you know, they kind of did this with almost everything from the ancient world that used to be in a poultice, the dogwood tree bark, and the Japanese took the sea anemones that were rolling up on the beach, and they would take all these naturally occurring things that people had used as folk remedies for years, and then see what kind of chemicals were in them. And that's what happened with stinging nettles, with the nettles. They took the leaves, ground them up, and put them into a machine. And that machine has a name. It's called HPLC. Like so much in science, HPLC is an acronym. And it stands for high pressure liquid chromatography. So they take the leaves, grind them up, turn them into a solution. So now they're literally a liquid. Put it into under high pressure so that the molecules sort out, and then spray it out through a column, and things that have different molecular weights would separate. And then things that had the same molecular weight stay together. So when you look at a HPLC printout, it looks like a line, and then there's a bump, and then there's a bump, and then there's a bump. You've separated the contents out into what has the same molecular weight, molecules, chemicals. So you've basically separated the leaves into its constituent chemicals. And based on the properties of those peaks, you can figure out, well, what was the molecular weight of the compound, and then you can identify the compound, and then you can know what its chemistry is. So that's how they explore things like the nettles. And if you take the stinging nettle and you grind it up and you turn it into liquid and you put it through HPLC, you find out that it is made up of anti-inflammatory compounds. Very interesting, right? Because as we've uncovered again and again and again on this show, arthritis causes joint pain by causing inflammation. So something that is anti-inflammation is anti-arthritis. And we know, it's been proven again and again and again, the best early treatment for arthritis is anti-inflammatory medications. But anti-inflammatory medications have huge side effects if you take them too long, right? The NSAIDs, Aleve, ibuprofen, Mobic, Celebrex, Vioxx, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, if you take them for more than a month, you start getting into some nasties. You start getting into stuff like ulcers, and then it goes down from there. After the ulcers, you face kidney failure. It somehow affects your renal vasculatures or whatever. And I remember Sean Elliott, famous basketball player when I was in college. Well, actually, when I was in med school at the U of A, Sean Elliott went on to San Antonio Spurs. Sean Elliott ended up having kidney failure and I think got a kidney transplant due to long-term non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Other athletes have faced a similar thing. And then the worst of all, the heart. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs can cause heart problems, very significant heart problems. including heart attacks, perpetuate heart failure, etc. Stroke. So there's just a whole host of horrendous things that can happen to you if you take non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for a long time. And so we're all like, it's a double-edged sword. I want to take that NSAID and feel better, but I don't want to get kidney failure like Sean Elliott. I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to get a stroke. So I certainly don't want to have an ulcer and have bleeding. So we look to plants as natural versions in lieu of. If I need a medicine, I'm going to go to the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. But if I need something, is there something I could do every day to stay pumped and get rid of this horrendous this stiff feeling when I wake up? And that's where natural things seem to have the potential to be really, really great agents. You could eat stinging nettles all the time, and you're very unlikely to have any kind of side effect at all, yet alone ulcers, heart failure, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, right? It'd take a whole lot of stinging nettle leaves to cause anything like that. So it's really, really attractive. We call it food as medicine, but it's really food for life, right? Food for a better life. I'll take medicine when I'm sick, but when I want to just feel better, I don't want the risk of the medicine, but I definitely want the effect. So very, very interesting that these stinging nettles are made up of anti-inflammatory compounds. And that raises the question, could we use them in a medicinal way? And so I did search the medical literature and I put together the information. Now look, people, don't make me, I shouldn't even have to tell you what's coming next. What's happening next? Pyramid, right? Pyramid. Whenever we're going to look at evidence, if I wanted to give you propaganda, if I was selling these pills to you and I was some snake oil guy, which I am not, I am definitely not. I wouldn't know how to do that. But let's say I was some circus sham guy and shady guy, and I was going to give you fake information. I would pick information that was favorable, but I would not give you the big picture, and I would not tell you the power of that information, right? Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. That's propaganda. You can never do that. So when someone's going to give you a fact, you put it on the pyramid. And now let's look at it. Let's look at the information that's out there about stinging nettles. By the way, the nettles are called Urtica deosea. Urtica deosea. That's their kind of Latin name. At the bottom of the pyramid is the chemical analysis. This is before we get into any medical or clinical. And there are full of anti-inflammatory compounds. So, I mean, if someone told me they were taking this for joint pain and there was no anti-inflammatory component, I wouldn't, apply any credence. But if someone told me, hey, this has been used for centuries and it's full of anti-inflammatories, okay, I could see why it's used for centuries. I don't know if I still want to use it. I want to see if there's any clinical data on it. But certainly interesting, building the case. The next level of the pyramid are case series. And a case series is where they gave the Urtica deosea to one group of people and saw what happened. And there are none of those. So I won't belabor you too much with case series because I couldn't find any reports of that. Typically what we see in the medical literature is there'll be some case series, and then out of these case series, people will summon up the gumption to say, oh my gosh, there really looks like there's something here. We've got some solid chemical data. We've got, anecdotally, there's some case series that seem to imply that it's working. Let's do a randomized controlled trial. And that would be the next level of the pyramid. And let's go back. Whoa, so weird because there's no case series on this one. But there is Urtica deosea, stinging nettles, in a randomized controlled trial. Kind of. So let me read this title to you. A rosa canina Urtica deosea, Hargophytum pronumbicans zeri. I don't have no idea how to say that. Combination. Okay, so this is one, two, three, three botanicals, three herbs in combination, significantly reduces gone arthritis. Gone arthritis, I had to look that up. I thought that was such a weird term, but it turns out it just means arthritis of the knee. Okay, I don't know why it's called. If you know, please drop that into the comments for me. I don't know if that's an old term or a term that's used more often outside of the United States, which is my hood. I don't know. But anyway, gone arthritis, which is arthritis of the knee, symptoms in a randomized placebo-controlled double-blind study. Ooh, okay, I want to talk to you about this. Randomized placebo-controlled double-blind. Let's unpack that one word at a time. Randomized placebo-controlled double-blind trial. Okay, let's start with the placebo part. Placebo-controlled means we're going to have two groups. We're going to have a group of people get this combination of leaves and herbs and whatever they are, and then we're going to have the second group get nothing. It's going to be fake, but double-blind, they're not going to know it. Not only it's double-blind, not only are they not going to know it, that's the single-blind, the double-blind is the person giving them the drug is not going to know either. You want it to be double blind, and the reason is you can't have the patient who's receiving the drug in the trial know, right? You can't be like, you can't have the patient say, oh, okay, you're getting the experimental drug, good for you. And then to the other guy, hey, you're getting the placebo, so it's fake. If you take it, don't worry about it, right? You can't do that. They have to not know. That's the single blind. And then you want it to be double blind. That's where the person giving them the drug doesn't know. Because you don't want it to be like, here's the drug. I'm really excited about seeing your results. And then to the next person who's in the placebo, yeah, here's the drug. Good luck, right? If I know, and by the way, if I'm the investigator and I'm doing the trial, I'm doing it because I'm really excited about the possibility of an outcome. So I'm going to be super biased. There's a good chance I'm biased. And you don't want me sending my bias onto the people in the study, right? Yeah, I hope it works for you. Versus, oh, wow, people are having great results. I'm really excited to see how it goes for you, right? That can influence the outcome. So it has to be double blind, where the person handing out the drugs, they don't know whether they're handing out the placebo, and they don't know if they're handing out the actual urtica dioica. They can't know, so that's double blind. So, and then randomized. Randomized is another super important word in this. We don't want it to be like, oh, this guy, this guy was a water polo player in college, and he runs 5 miles a day, and then he swims 1.5 miles, and then he climbs the coconut tree, cuts it open with his bare hands, and drinks coconut milk on his controlled fast. This guy's in unbelievable supernatural condition. Let's put him in the treatment group. And then this guy, this person who eats at Burger King maybe 10, 15 times a week and is totally unhealthy and hasn't exercised since, Grand Theft Auto 1 came out, that person we'll put you in the placebo control group. Now, it's got to be randomized. So this coconut-eating Tarzan in Force of Nature comes along, flip a coin, you're in one group. This gamer couch potato, dude who's got no interest in his personal health, flip a coin. He goes in one group or the other. We take all comers and we randomize them. And we do that just like we do the double blind in the hope of ending up with a treatment group and a control group that are equal in composition and have equal expectations. Equal in composition and equal expectations. That's the only way to make it fair, right? Otherwise, it's just not fair. But what we want to have is a fair trial and a good trial. So that's how that's done. So this is how this study was done. Now, of course, there's a flaw here, right? And you see it right away. We're not just talking about urtica dioica. We're talking about 3 or 4 of these herbs together. And so my take on that is we could get definitive evidence. If those 4 things taken together don't work, then we can be pretty confident that the urticaria, the stinging nettles, which was one of those 4 things, that it didn't work too. So if this outcome is negative, then we've got pretty solid information that it doesn't work. If it's positive, then we've got what I would call continued hope, right? We don't know for sure that it works. Could be one of these other things, could be all these things in combination are better. And come to find out through looking this stuff up, people often do take urticaria, stinging nettles, in combination with some of these other agents. But anyway, super interesting. And what was the result? Drum roll, please. It worked. Significant reduction in pain. It was a randomized controlled placebo double-blind trial, best kind of trial you can get. And sure enough, they saw a significant reduction in depressive symptoms, in arthritic pain, in attitude, reduced use of other medications like non-steroidals. It was a very positive trial. And so all things together, it seems like this is very effective. And that means that it could be that our urticaria, our stinging nettle, is effective. Okay, so I guess I'm at a point with this stuff, even though it's got this kind of bass-ackwards, nasty sounding name in my mind, which I don't want to put any kind of stinging anything down my throat. But it's full of anti-inflammatories, and it definitely was part of a cocktail that was effective in a clinical trial. And so I think it's definitely something that I would consider. It's definitely something that I would consider. And so when I get to this point where I'm at the end of my rope, okay, if I was going to recommend, I could definitely say to you, if you're curious, if you're stinging nettle curious, you can try it. And it's a reasonable thing to try. But then we get into all kinds of shenanigans. Then we get into internet stuff, tomfoolery. Okay, well, how often should you take it? No information. What form should you take it in? It comes as a liquid. It comes as a tincture. It comes as a capsule. That's what Sandra Bagwell was originally asking about. And it's just impossible to know. So when you need help, you got to ask for help. And so with all of these botanicals and all these kinds of things, my go-to person is Lorilee Gilmore. Lorilee is an Ayurvedic practitioner, and Ayurvedic people, kind of like naturopaths, are really, in my opinion, the masters of the botanical domain. Ayurveda is real interesting to me. In America, what we call medicine, it's here in America, we just call it medicine, but really it's allopathic medicine. Other countries have different versions of their traditional medicine. It won't surprise you to learn that Chinese medicine is from China, right? So Chinese medicine has its own components, things like acupuncture and certain herbs are historical parts of Chinese medicine. There's a thousands-of-year-old medical tradition in India, and the Indian tradition is Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the Indian medicine of old, and then yoga was like the physical education, the PE of the exercise videos of old India. So yoga, that's becoming so popular here in the US now. Interesting, right? That Ayurveda is out there too. Well, so I interviewed my colleague, Ayurvedic practitioner, and actually good friend, Lorilee Gilmore, yesterday, and I'd like to share that with you now. Miss Lorilee Gilmore, Ayurvedic practitioner, thanks so much for coming back and joining us on the show again.
Yeah.
Well, Lorilee, we need you because of questions that have come up about this compound, stinging nettle. One of our viewers asked my opinion on it. I didn't know anything about it. So I did a literature search and I found out that the leaves have been used in Europe for 100 years for the treatment of joint pain. But I really couldn't find anything strong about how to take it, how often to take it, what to take. And so I know Ayurveda, very advanced with botanicals, and I wanted to see if you knew anything and if you could fill our viewers in.
Sure. So there are nettles has very strong anti-inflammatory properties. It's great for joint pain. It's great even for gout. It's very easy to take. I actually, this is some right here. Um, I use some in some of my blends that I use. Um, it's considered a superfood because it's high in A, C, D, K, calcium, potassium, phosphorus, iron, and sulfur. And so you can use it both internally and you can use it topically. A great way to use it for the joints is to actually make a poultice and put it on the joints topically. That you can do that for joints, muscles. It helps to relieve sciatic pain. It's also known as a nerve tonic, so it's very good for the nervous system. And in fact, long time ago, Mexican healers, they used to take it and crush it and rub it on the skin because of the stinging part of it. It does have little stingers on it, to increase circulation. And we know that increasing circulation can help to flush things out of the system. Um, yeah, so there's so many fantastic aspects to using this, and it's really easy. You can make an herbal infusion of it. You just take about an ounce of the dried leaf. You can put it in a mason jar, bring some water to boil, pour it over, let it sit at least 4 hours to all night long. And then you can strain that and sip on that for about the next 36 hours. It's potent. If you happen to have any left over at the end of 36 hours, you can do a little hair rinse with it, and it helps to stimulate hair growth.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. It does a lot. It's got a lot of uses in Ayurvedic lore, and that's really interesting. You know, one of the biggest issues that I have, and I think our viewers have, is there's just so many fraudsters out there. I wouldn't know if I was looking at stinging nettle or cottonseed. I mean, it could be anything, and so we really want to find sources and purveyors. I know you provide this material through your website. How do you source it? How do you make sure what you're getting is the real deal?
I actually do quite a bit of research, and I have a few different places that I source things from. I look at the quality control. I look at what they do for their testing. I make sure that they're doing third-party testing, which is really important to make sure of the purity of it, so it's not slanted and biased from their company. And so, yeah, I have a handful of people that I've trusted. I mean, I've had an apothecary for 17 years. And, in that amount of time, you just build relationships with people that you can really trust. And if I get something and it doesn't look right, then I send it back and I look elsewhere.
Now, can our viewers who want to try stinging nettle, if they've seen this and they're excited about it, can they get it through you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I ship all around the world. And so it's very easy. You just shoot me an email and let me know that you're interested. And we can have a little dialogue of how the best way it would be used for you in a tincture form or in a tea form or in a compress or, in this herbal infusion that I spoke about. And, because everybody's going to digest it a little bit differently. Speaking of digestion, it's really, really good to help for gas and digestion as well. So it's a carminative. So it helps to stimulate digestion and helps to relieve gas as well.
Wow. I mean, I'm really grateful to one of our viewers for pointing it out. It's definitely interesting compound, and I'd love to hear if people get it, how it goes for them, and what they actually do with it. Well, thank you for being with us today, and I'll look forward till the next time we need you to help us out with these botanicals and food as medicine and anti-inflammatory diet. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now. I think those stinging nettles are really interesting. If you do try them, Sandra Bagwell, you in particular, if you try it, let me know how it goes. I think it's really interesting. Is it worth trying? Yeah, there's something there, but the rest is up to you. If you're going to do it, I am very, very fearful of all the kind of con that goes on in this nutritional business. I wouldn't know if I was eating stinging nettles or Fruit Loops or something else ground up. So I would if I was going to do it, I'd get it from Lorilee because it's easy, and then you know what you're getting, and at least it has a chance of actually working.